And just like that, the NFL talking heads, pundits, experts, community, all of a sudden, the thing they're most worried about in the NFL is fringe players who don't get to stay on rosters. I'm Glenn Norton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. This stuff is hilarious, folks. I don't know how I can't see it any other way. And if you do, then more power to you. But I haven't been that active on Twitter for the last 24, 36 hours. I'm in Bruges, Belgium, live from my hotel room. If you've not been to Bruges, must see city, my favorite small city in the world. Um, Check out the movie In Bruges, Colin Farrell, classic. But I haven't been on much, and I log in today and I see our friend Dom C and Scott Mason and some other Jets podcasters who I follow. They're commenting on people. Here's what's going on for everyone who's upset about Nick Bawden losing his roster spot to Aaron Rodgers. And my first reaction is people are upset that Nick Bawden lost his I said last week, maybe it was the week before, either last week or the week before, commented briefly, and I said Nick Bawden, that guy is still on the roster somehow. Like, listen, I have no problem with Nick Bawden. I like the guy. I thought that and in his defense, to show that I'm not just a guy who doesn't like Nick Bawden, I think that if the Jets used him as a guy who catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit, he could be a more effective player. I don't think they're using him playing to his strengths. Surprise, Nate Hackett. Um, but Bawden's been bad. He is not. He's played double digit snaps exactly 3 times this year. Three. Like, this is a part time player who doesn't play that well when he does play. And people are. I'm supposed to believe that people from, I don't know the guy's name, from somebody from PFF. There was uh PFN. I think Mike Florio, whoever he writes for. I see all these tweets and articles about, oh, this is so sad, and Nick Bawden, I feel so bad for him. You should be happy that Nick Bawden got to stay on the roster this long. Everyone's acting like Nick Bawden is this guy who, and he's back, reportedly. Rich Samini saying Bawden's going to be added to the practice squad, and if he's healthy, he's going to be added to the roster. So he hasn't really gone anywhere. So in all reality, the Jets probably let go of the last guy on the practice squad so that Aaron Rodgers can get some reps with his teammates. And here's the funny thing. Exactly, Gus, my guy Gus. Long time no speak there, Gus. And as Gus says here, this isn't the first time Nick Bawden's been cut. I don't remember any hysteria then. I don't remember major publications writing articles in defense of Nick Bawden. This isn't about Nick. This is about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers didn't get a shot that they wanted him to get. And for that, they will forever vilify him and find any reason to criticize him. What was the rap on Aaron Rodgers when he came to the Jets? Here's the hilarious part. And these silver things on my shoulders look really weird. I don't even know what they are. But Aaron Rodgers, when he comes to the Jets, everyone's, oh, you wait and see, Jets fans. Aaron Rodgers is all about Aaron Rodgers, and he's so selfish. He's not going to be at OTAs. He's not going to be at any extra practices. He's only going to show up for the mandatory stuff. And now that Aaron Rodgers is recovering from an injury and has a free ticket to not take any time with the team, has decided to rejoin the team and get on the field and practice and build some chemistry, now he's selfish for that. So Aaron Rodgers was selfish when he wasn't going to practice, and now that Aaron Rodgers wants to practice, it's because he's selfish. Give me a damn break, you clowns. Get the hell out of here. Oh, you just traded for a guy who's all about himself and doesn't care about the team. He's not going to be in the building when he doesn't have to be. Oh my God, Aaron Rodgers is going to be in the building. That's because he's so selfish. These idiots can't help themselves. I don't care if it's the dope on WFAN. I don't know that guy's name either. If it's the dope on PFF, if it's Mike Florio, whoever it is, don't take these people seriously. They're not meant to be taken seriously. They're a joke. And I'm the guy who didn't love the Rodgers deal. So it's not like there's Glenn with his Aaron Rodgers defense again. I said the Jets got fleeced in the Rodgers deal, and I wouldn't have given up as much as they did. I'm glad he's here, and I said that too. I said, look, he's here. Exactly, Justin. I was going to touch on that in a few minutes too. So not only does Rodgers come in, show up to every practice, show up to every team activity, and then get himself activated to take part this week, the guy gave up like 35 million. So he gave up money, he gave up time, but he's selfish because Nick Bawden, who is still in the building, who still might play this Sunday, he's injured. The team bumped him. If you put Jeremy Ruckert in Nick Bawden's role, gave Ruckert Bawden snaps at fullback, I would argue Ruckert would do a better job. I would plug Ruckert in at fullback, H-back, and tight end, give Yeboah some more reps at tight end, with Ruckert moving to H back fullback and have him play all three. He can do all three. And you would, I think the offense would be better. I mean, look, not that it matters at this point in the season, but listen, we're at this a point in the year now where it's not as much about Aaron Rodgers, whether or not he's practicing or he's not practicing. Right now for the New York Jets, it's about, getting guys. You've got 3 games left, which isn't a ton, but there are some guys you can evaluate in these close. And listen, I'm tired of saying it, right? Because every year this is what we talk about from sort of Jesus, with this team, sometimes it's week 5, but week 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 roll around. And what do we start talking about? Who should see the field to see if they can play? Who should get some reps to see if they're worthy of hanging around next year? And it's time for that conversation again. And I think the guys, the primary guys to me that you have to look at, number one, Carter Warren. The tackle out of Pitt, played left and right tackle in college, has played left and right tackle for the Jets already between preseason and regular season. He's looked okay. He hasn't looked great. I've seen people say, "Oh, he didn't look that, he didn't look fantastic in the couple starts he had." The guy did not play football for most of last year. Played a couple games for Pitt, missed the rest of the season with injury, took a couple snaps in the preseason with the Jets, and then missed all that time due to injury up until a couple of weeks ago. Like, what did you expect from a rookie making his first couple of starts, having not really played football for almost 2 years? I don't know what you expected, but for me, Carter Warren impressed. And they need to find out, with the number of questions they have on this offensive line, the Jets have to find out what they have in him in terms of, does his presence make the need at offensive tackle even slightly less? I'm not saying Carter Warren can do enough to make you say you're good at either of the tackle spots, but he can do enough to make you say, all right, we're not as desperate as we thought we were. We think he could be a starter. We think he could be a high-level backup swing tackle type of guy. So I think you've got to get Carter Warren on the field if you can. He's been dinged up, obviously. But Izzy Abanikanda, his college teammate, is the next guy. I've been screaming all year for Izzy Abanikanda. I thought he should have been the number 2 back before the Dalvin Cook trade happened. Once the Cook trade happened, I still liked him as the number 2, but you just knew that wasn't going to be the case because you paid Dalvin Cook all that money. That worked out well. But all you've done with Izzy Abanikanda, you sat him on the bench all year, and then you give him some garbage time carries and you run him into the pile. You don't play to his strengths. You don't get him outside. You don't get him in space. Like, play Izzy Abanikanda and get him out in space. Even if you throw him the football, he's got a couple catches, but get him out in space catching the football. Again, Gus, my guy here. I don't know if you saw it, Gus. I did an article earlier for JetNation.com. And the name you just mentioned, Trey Dean, that was another one on there. I mentioned 6 guys. It was Izzy, it was Carter Warren. Trey Dean was on there. Trey Dean is a guy that Jets fans fell in love with during preseason. He had himself a really good camp, looked good in game action. The PFF grades were nice. He looked good on film. Sure tackler, more so than what we've seen from Jordan Whitehead. But yet Trey Dean has been on the practice squad all year. With the Jets out of it, I would like to see them elevate him to the active roster, get him on the field for a couple of games. And even if he doesn't, it's not like that doesn't mean that closes the door for him. Remember, of course, Tony Adams last year, undrafted free agent, who did see the field late in the year, and ends up being a starter this year. But I would like to see Trey Dean get an opportunity. Jarek Bernard-Converse is another guy. Again, you're talking defensive back, rookie defensive back, late round pick, who has some versatility. He can play nickel. He can play safety. He can play corner. I don't know what the Jets have it planned for him. I've mentioned during the season that depending on who you listen to, the Jets may have him listed at corner or safety, and you get these beat writers who say he's a safety and some say he's a corner. To me, that's a good thing. Like, if the Jets envision him as a guy who can play all over the field, kind of like what they were hoping Chuck Clark could be Clark a far more physical player in my mind. But if they think he can fill a multiple roles on defense, then by all means get him on the field, get him some live reps. That way, you're getting a look at another rookie. Again, you want to see as much as you can from this rookie class. Zach Kuntz, I don't think you're going to see practice squad guy all year. Zaire Barnes on IR, but that doesn't mean you can't get Warren on the field. You can't get JBC on the field. You can't get these guys. You can get them some reps. Another guy, and listen, I understand he's been getting reps, but with him, it's more targets. A guy I mentioned a few minutes ago, Jeremy Ruckert. Right, Jeremy Ruckert's a guy that we really thought this would be a breakout year for him. He's averaged 1.7 targets per game this year. That's terrible. And look, whether it's the OC, the quarterback, whatever the reason, get Ruckert some targets. He's looked good when given the opportunity, but the opportunities have been few and far between. But they need to see what they have. Do they have a legitimate pass catching guy? And here's the problem. When you've got an offensive coordinator who's not very good, and who hasn't been very good ever, really. I mean, we all know Hackett did an okay-ish job. Yeah, exactly. This is the point I'm making right now, Gus. Hackett hasn't really done a good job anywhere. Other than I think he had a good year in Jacksonville once, and other than that, hasn't done anything. Of course, he looked good with Aaron Rodgers under center, as I've said before. Myself and anybody watching this right now could probably do a really nice job as offensive coordinator if you've got Aaron Rodgers going out there and just changing your play calls if he doesn't like what you're calling. And then you get to say, and remember, Hackett wasn't the primary play caller, so that's an entire another part of the story. So is it Hackett? Is it the quarterbacks? Is it Ruckert? All I know is I want to see the Jets get Ruckert involved and see what he can do. John's saying the talking heads are going nuts. Yep, they hate Rodgers because he goes against. Look, Rodgers is an independent guy. He doesn't bow to these guys. Fullback, 2 carries, 4 yards. His wife is even defending the Jets. Yeah, listen, the Bawden thing is hilarious. He's a fringe guy who hardly plays, and you got these idiot writers pretending that they're just beside themselves and so offended. Oh, they gave up his roster spot for a guy who's not even going to play this year. Every year. I mean, watch the damn games. Look at the rosters. Every season, you get 2, 3, 4 guys who don't play, who just hang on the roster because teams like them. Tony Adams, good example. And yeah, did Tony Adams play? Yeah. By week 15, 16, 17, he got some reps. But up until that point, he was on a roster taking up somebody's spot that could have been an active player. And that's what teams do. If teams have a player that they really like, but he's not going to play, they put him on the active roster. Sometimes. Of course, it's not an always thing. But and I've brought this up in years past when I've argued with people about whether or not the Jets should carry a third quarterback. And people tell, oh, you can't use up a roster spot on a guy who's not going to play. And I always say every single year, you see a guy or two on a roster, on a 53, not practice squad. You'll see a guy on a 53 who doesn't play during the year. And it's clearly a guy that a team looks at and goes, we think he get poached if we put him on the practice squad, and we don't want to lose him, even though he's not good enough to play right now. So we're going to put him on the 53 and stash him there where he can practice with the team, get better, develop. And this is no different than what you're doing with Rodgers. You want him to develop that chemistry with his teammates. You want him to be comfortable with them to be comfortable with him. And it's just an absolute joke that these guys are talking about this. Let's see. O-line video came out today on Jets Chaos. I'm not sure what that is, but the Jets O-line, listen, this is there's going to be a lot of talk about this offensive line in the offseason, okay? Mekhi Becton, we've talked about him. I thought he was a guy the Jets would keep around for next season, but as the weeks pass, I'm less and less sure of that. I can see them letting him walk. Elijah Vera Tucker, what can you expect from him going forward? 2 major injuries 2 years in a row, or, suffering major injuries 2 years in a row. I don't know how much you can rely on him. Of course, you've got Tippmann. Tomlinson probably hangs around because of his salary. Max Mitchell, not a very good player. Max Mitchell will be a backup type player, and there's nothing wrong with having backup type players on your roster. That's exactly what he'll be. Joe says, what are they doing on safety? Again, I think that's why we need to see Trey Dean. We need to see um, Jarek Bernard Converse if they're going to have him there, get him some reps. And of course, again, Tony Adams, a youngster, he'll be around. Safety is a. I actually just posted a mock a few minutes ago. Check it out at JN Radio_Glenn. Posted a mock, and I believe, and I did. I believe I took a safety, because they're gonna need a safety. They're gonna need some safety depth, I should say. And as Richard says, Rich, how we doing, man? OC is part of the problem. Jets O line is horrible. Yeah, listen, and especially that it wasn't never more clear than it was last Sunday, how much of a difficult time any quarterback would have behind this offensive line. Zach Wilson was hit, hurried, or pressured or sacked on at least his first 11 dropbacks, which is insane. 11 out of 11. There's someone either in your face hitting you or sacking you every single time. John says, as for the O line, go to over the cap. Some good guys on there, like the center. Yeah, you're not wrong, John. But the thing is, it's a matter of waiting until free agency hits, and when we actually know who is going to hit free agency. The number of times I've been caught saying this guy's going to be a free agent because such and such team is up against the cap, they can't afford to keep this guy, so expect him to hit free agency. And then the team does all this maneuvering and wrangling, and they release guys and cut guys and restructure guys so they can keep the guy that I was sure would be, would be a free agent, and they don't make it. So yeah, it's durable. Listen, John, durability. Who's more durable than Chuck Clark? The Jets signed the guy, NFL Iron Man, 80 billion snaps played in a row without missing a snap. What does he do? Doesn't even make it to the opener. Injured, doesn't play a game. Out for the year. Elijah Vera Tucker, no injury issues in college. 2 major injuries with the Jets. Mekhi Becton, no major injuries in college. Misses 2 full seasons with injuries with the Jets. I don't do the whole snake bitten, cursed, all that. The Jets just have terrible luck. And that's what, so I've seen people say, oh, what are you going to do? What do you do with Joe Douglas as your GM? He stinks. I'm like, listen, you keep Joe Douglas, let him keep doing what he's doing and hope guys can stay on the field. This is a roster that a lot of people had going to the playoffs, deep playoff runs. There's people picking the Jets for the Super Bowl. That's the roster Joe Douglas put together. Then everybody gets hurt. I've said it before, and we'll talk about it more this offseason. I'm not holding the GM accountable for injuries. Like, if I say to you, who should the Jets take in the first round this year? And let's say you say, oh, they should I'm not even going to say any names because people are going to say I'm jinxing people. You say, I think they should take this guy, Glenn. They traded down to 13. They should take so-and-so. All right, say they take so-and-so, and he ruptures his Achilles. Do we fire Joe Douglas now? Is that his fault? Or is Joe Douglas just picking guys who, again, no injury history and can't stay on the damn field? It's frustrating, but I'm not going after Joe Douglas for that. Yeah, exactly. You're talking about Jackson, the USC kid who went to the Dolphins, who was bad for his first couple of years. Austin Jackson. I thought he was going to be terrible. And he straightened himself out, man. So kudos to him. And again, yeah, John, Chuck Clark, they sign all these guys and the injuries just keep mounting up. Look at the training staff. What's going on there? How ironic that the Jets facility is named after a medical facility. Charles Harrison, Becton can go. I think he's going to go. And it kind of bothers me because I like Becton, I think, more than a lot of people do. The talent is there. I think it's, I think he's playing hurt right now. He's given up 5, 6, 7 sacks over the last couple games, which is just an absurd number. I don't think the more I think about it, the more I think the Jets will let him walk. One thing I'm glad about, like you, I wasn't a Rodgers guy originally. That jumped on me. Hang on. He said he wants another 2 years. Yeah, listen, here's the thing with Rodgers. He wants another 2 years, and we all hope he plays another 2 years. But 2 things about that. One, let's see how he does in year 1 with the injuries. He may go out there with this, coming back from the ruptured Achilles and say, oh, you know what? This is a lot harder than I thought it was. I don't think I'm going to come back next year. And if he does come back, not a lot of quarterbacks succeed at that rate. So Joe just chimed in with what the next question was going to be. And this is going to get covered a ton, but sitting at where they are right now at 7, what do the Jets do? What do you do if you're the Jets? I think it's got to be a trade down. I think if you lose to the Commanders, maybe you lose to the Patriots. I mean, really, if you lose out, you have a chance to move up a little bit, but can you get high enough to be in a spot where your pick is in demand. The two quarterbacks, of course, are a big deal. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a huge deal. It's all going to come down to that fourth pick. And is there a player who will climb enough draft boards to make teams feel compelled to trade up? So let's see. Joe says trade down, get multiple picks. I agree. Draft a guard. Give me Cooper Beebe. Draft a center. I think you're happy with Tippmann. I don't think so. But maybe. And listen, if you want a center who's got some center guard versatility, go for it. If you want to guard Zach Zinter, you might be able to get him in a bargain because of the injury. McCarthy at 15, 16 feels rich to me. I don't know about that. I would rather take a quarterback on day 2 or 3 than round 1, because you're not going to piss Aaron Rodgers off by not building around him, especially if you don't trade down and you don't pick again until round 3. You go out and you don't take a quarterback in round 1, or sorry, if you do take a quarterback in round 1 and you don't make any additional trades. And I know that's not what you're pitching, Joe, but I've seen other people suggest it. You're not getting Aaron Rodgers any help till round 3, in which case he might just walk away. Like if he's all in, he's giving up money and he's rehabbing and he's committing to 2 years, he's going to want the Jets to be all in, and taking his future replacement isn't all in as far as he's concerned. It is sad about Becton. Like I said, really like the kid. Let's see. I actually think Becton. I don't. John, you raised a really good point here. One, I don't think Becton will be that. That was my prediction for most of this year. I don't know when I kind of got on that bandwagon, but for most of this season, my thought was you franchise Becton if he stays healthy, and if he plays well again next year, you give him a long-term deal. I don't think that's going to happen, but the Huff thing, I've mentioned in recent weeks on our show the number of good players when you're looking at Sauce, Jermaine Johnson, Garrett Wilson, what you're already paying Quinnen Williams, the money you're going to be having to pay these guys in a year or two, because these guys after next season can demand new deals. Like, you look at how mad Garrett Wilson is right now. You don't think next year he could be a guy after the season who says, I want my $30 million a year now? Like, he could do that. And he might. And JJ might do it. And Sauce might do it. So with those big salaries coming down the road, with Quinnen Williams, with what Huff would probably make, I brought this up on our show a few weeks ago. Who do you let go? You can't keep all these guys. If you look at all the Jets' best players, you can't keep all of them for the next couple of years. You just can't. You're talking, especially the Rodgers money. Rodgers is owed a ton of money, even with the pay cut. So you think Rodgers, Sauce, JJ, Garrett, do you want to keep Brees around if he plays well? Huff, Quinnen, those guys right there, that's your cap. That's like you're maxed out on those 7 guys. So that's going to be an interesting one. Let's see. What round do you take a QB if you take one? It depends on who's there, but I love Jordan Travis, Florida State. I would take him in the middle rounds. Brady Cook on day 3, if he's there as a developmental guy. There are some others, but those are I'm a big Cam Ward guy, but it looks like he's going to go back to school. He's getting offers from major schools, NIL and all that. He might end up at Ohio State, somewhere like that. But Cam Ward was my guy coming into this year. Cam Ward was the guy that I hoped would come out, but I don't think that's going to happen. Another guy I really like, Jalen Daniels, not Jaden, Jalen Daniels, Kansas quarterback, but he didn't play a lot. He was injured this year, so I doubt he'll be coming out. But Jordan Travis, if you can get him, Brady Cook, if you're looking at a day 3 guy, and Cam Ward, if he's coming out, I would take him in round 2. But again, the Jets don't have a second this year. McCarthy will be a beast, a QB for the Jets. You can sign Higgins. That's the hope. That's the hope that you go get Higgins. But again, is that going to be enough to keep Rodgers happy? I think Rodgers wants all the help. I don't think he wants some help. I don't think he wants a little help. I think he wants some wide receivers in free agency, maybe a blocker or 2 in free agency, and then some more help through the draft early on. I mean, they will take defense at some point or a quarterback at some point, but I don't think it's going to be in the first 3 or 4 rounds. I think that's going to be committed all to O-line, receivers, maybe even a running back if somebody falls, somebody like Braylon Allen out of Wisconsin, who I really like. If Joe Alt's there, the Jets should take him. Let's see. Top 15 best offensive lineman available. Jets have multiple picks. Look, Charles, I don't disagree that Alt is a good player, but my issue is the Jets don't have enough picks to only pick one guy in the first round and then not pick again until round 3. The Jets, and I hate that. I wish that wasn't the case, but reality for the Jets right now is that they need too many pieces to only take one guy in round one and then not pick again until the third round. I think they need to do everything they can to move down. Now, if they stay put and they take Joe Alt, I'm fine with that. But I want Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers, especially in a tackle deep class. I think you can get quality tackles. I've said before, and I know it's unpopular with some people because when I hear other people say it in other years, I usually hate it. But I think if you're ever going to do it, this is the year to use future draft picks. Pardon me. Wife handed this to me a few minutes ago. I thought it was water. It's wine. I chugged the damn thing, thinking she's giving me a drink of water. A little bit of a surprise there. Um, Anyway, yeah, so I think you got to move down, and there are enough tackles in this class that you can get one later on. We'll be talking more about that in the coming weeks when we do more draft with me, Dylan, and Chris Schubert. Do I think with the injuries, I think you have to pick up AVT's fifth-year option, but you're very cautious in doing it. Unfortunately, you wish you could feel really good about it, but he's too good of a player to just let him walk away, but he's been too injured to give him a long-term deal. But I think you pick up the fifth year. Becton hates being in the Jets. Listen, Gus, I said when he did that, I think it was Newsday, when he did that interview before the season, I was like, this guy is it's acting like he wants to not be here, or he's getting the worst advice in the world. It was so bad. Higgins, we might get a slight bit cheaper because he's not having a great year. Uh, I'd like to think that, John, but players know what they've put on film. Teams know what players have put on film, and they're bidding against each other. Um, you only need one or two GMs to not get caught up in the numbers and to look at what he does on game day and whether he's getting targeted, whatever the reason. If a guy isn't producing, sometimes a guy is doing good things but not producing, and GMs will recognize that. And Higgins may have bad numbers, but he's going to get a monster contract. Um, if Huff's agent's any good, he gets paid, and that's not. I mean, he's. I just, Gus, I don't want to say it. I don't want people to say this is what I'm rooting for, but I wonder if Huff could be a tag and trade type guy. Because if you've got McDonald stepping in next year, you've got JJ coming, like you've got depth that like dealing from a position of strength, right? We talk about that. Like when you're making trades, like where do you have an abundance and where are you lacking? Well, the Jets have an abundance of edge rushers and a lack of draft picks. So as much as I love Bryce Huff, if you're the Jets and you need picks, he might be the guy that you tag and trade. I'm not. Sometimes you suggest things or you say something you think might happen, and people think, "Why do you want that to happen?" I don't want that to happen. I want Bryce Huff here long term, but tag and trade might make the most sense. We got a crush free agency to have. That's always the goal, right, Paul? You hit a bunch of home runs in free agency, or at least you hope you do, and you address as many needs as possible so that when the draft rolls around, you have maximum flexibility. What about Michael Carter II? Yeah, look, there's a few guys, and he's one of them. Carter II. I think I mentioned him in a recent show. They got to get him signed because he's again, unless they think they're going to draft his replacement this year, but that's a big gamble because he's such a good player. But throw him in there with the guys I mentioned in terms of dudes who need to get signed in the next year or two. That could because he's arguably the best nickel in the NFL. He's going to make a lot of money. So he's another guy. You look at Huff, you look at Carter, and all the guys I mentioned before. That's a lot of cash. Like guys are going to have to get dealt, whether the fans like it or not. Rodgers loves Garrett Wilson and Lazard. AR Lazard Higgins is the best wide receiver. Unfortunately, they're stuck with Lazard for at least another season. The good thing is that if Rodgers is back, he throws such a damn good ball that even Lazard has a hard time dropping them. He did have a lot of drops in Green Bay, but not anything near as bad as he's been now. Maybe we can get in the top three picks and trade back. I don't see top three. I think best case scenario is 4 or 5. But in that situation, they're going to need somebody to ball out, to climb draft boards, and become really, really in demand to get a haul of picks. Like if you're sitting at 1, 2, or 3 in this draft, you are sitting pretty. You're either getting a franchise quarterback or the best, arguably the best wide receiver prospect ever in Marvin Harrison Jr., or you're trading back for a bounty of picks. So the Jets, man, if you land at 4 or 5, 5 is the beginning of no man's land. 4 is like, well, if Jaden Daniels, if somebody like that has a monster draft, off season, or not preseason, a pre-draft season, you might be able to get something out of that. Tag and trade Huff would get us. That's kind of what I'm thinking, John. Yeah, again with that lack of pick, with those lack of picks, and Huff would have to get you at least a second for what he's produced. Do it in a heartbeat. Will McDonald is going to be a monster. I think anyone who's sleeping on him is going to is sadly mistaken. Let's see. Lazard's strictly a vertical receiver. Jets aren't using him correctly. He is, but he's still an NFL receiver, and you can't be dropping 20% of your targets as an NFL receiver. He's more of a wide receiver 3. I said when they brought him on board, right? I thought that he should have been the slot guy with Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson on the outside. Then of course Corey retires, so that was a monster loss for the Jets. And I said at the time that people didn't appreciate how big of a loss that was going to be. John won't lie, love to lose out and have the Pats win a game prior to beating us. That would be phenomenal, Josh. John, let's be honest, but I don't. Belichick is even if he's on the way out, I think he's gonna. If both teams enter that game wanting to lose, Belichick's gonna outsmart the Jets and find a way to lose. Jets have to get a nose tackle and a free safety. Charles, like I said, just did a mock, and I'm sure people won't be thrilled that I picked a defensive tackle, McKinley Jackson, Texas A&M, who's not really a nose. Excuse me, and I apologize if the audio is terrible, and I apologize for not being live last night. It was supposed to be me, Chris, and Dylan last night. Like I said, I'm in Belgium. I was so crazy, chaotic, busy. I forgot what day it was. I literally woke up this morning at 4 a.m. and was like, we were supposed to do a show last night. Totally dropped the ball. So Dylan, Chris, apologies. Anyone who was going to watch last night, apologies. But yeah, Sweat and the guy I just mentioned, McKinley Jackson. Those are my 2 favorite DTs in this class. Check out Dom C on Twitter. He's doing a draft pod, and we talked interior defensive lineman a week or 2 ago. And I said I had McKinley Jackson and Tavondre Sweat ranked sort of 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th, somewhere in there. But I said to them, I think I may have done that subconsciously, not wanting to show my favoritism because I've been talking those guys up so much. I didn't want to put them at 2 and 3 behind Newton, who of course is the number 1 guy. But I said as the draft inches closer, I can see them moving up my personal board because that's everyone's super interested in my personal board. Zach will be back for the Pats game. He might be. Says John. Let's see. Number 2 pick is worth a 2. Trade down first. That number 2 pick is going to be worth tons. And yes, Gus, I agree. Dom's awesome. Like I said, did his draft pod, and we will be dropping a ton of draft content on the Jet Nation show fairly soon. It's time to talk draft, right? So that's why I just dropped a mock a few minutes ago. Like I said, check it out at JNRadio_Glenn. And give me a follow. And like our YouTube. What are they? Like, subscribe, click the bell. I say it all the time. I'm terrible. I'm the worst at reminding, asking, whatever, telling people to like, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I just forget. I'm bad at self-promotion. I just like coming on and rambling about the Jets. But yeah, hop on there. Hop on YouTube. Go to Jet Nation. Go to jetnation.com. Join the forums. You think there's a lot of talking here, man. Listen, the Jet Nation forums, 1 million hits a month is a routine thing. There's so much conversation going on in there. A lot of knowledgeable fans. Some crazy people, but let's face it, we're made up of society, right? We get people with good takes and we get people with crazy takes, but we love them all. We love our Jets fans. We all just want this damn team to win and have a good one. Charles, do we get Higgins? He's a target, but I worry where the bidding is going to go, and I worry that Aaron Rodgers is going to be like, go get my guy Bakhtiari and go get my guy Devontae, and the Jets kind of keep letting him run the show and pick the players and run out of money for anybody else. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with Rodgers. We'll keep watching the hilarious, hysterical, ridiculous media get upset that a guy who, a pro athlete wants to play with his teammates is now selfish. Bunch of damn idiots. Don't pay him any mind. Have a good one, Jets fans. That'll wrap this one up. We'll catch you next Wednesday. Merry Christmas, by the way. Christmas is coming. Enjoy the game on Christmas Eve. God, Sam Howell. Loved Sam Howell out of UNC. John, thanks so much for tuning in. Gus, everyone who jumped into the chat, John, Charles, Joe, everybody, thank you so much. Always appreciated. And we will be back, I'm assuming, Wednesday night. Myself, Chris, and Dylan. I will not be in Belgium. I will be back in England. That's the plan anyway. If we skip a show, we'll send out a message, let you know. Have a good one, Jets fans. Take care.